Are you ready, Olive? Let's go, girls. I went to the Zach Bryan concert at Railbird over the weekend. And before he came out on stage, like that's what they, like the whole stage went dark and that played.
Oh my gosh.
The crowd went nuts.
That's amazing.
And out came Zach Bryan and his band.
Oh, that's so fun.
It was the best thing.
Your little videos were so cute.
It was the best thing ever. Hey guys, this is the Witches, Magic, Murder, and Mystery Podcast.
I'm Kara.
I'm Megan.
And here's Olive.
Olive's here.
Seed podcast.
You can't see her, but she's real happy.
She's a good girl today.
She's the happiest baby.
She really is.
I think it's because I'm here.
I really think so. She, as soon as she saw Megan, she was so tired, but she just started grinning and reached for her and was just listening to her talk like, tell me all the stories.
Yes. And now she's going to eat her feet.
She said, did you see I have these things?
Okay, couple things before we get started. We've summerfied the store. Is that a good? That's how we say it. So took out all the sweatshirts, put in tank tops and everything. So if you're looking for summer merch, it's in there. And there's some new merch designs in there too.
So fun.
And as always, if you see a design you like, but it's like,
not on something.
Yeah. It's not on a tank top and you want it on a tank top, just message us. We can probably make that happen.
Yeah.
Usually pretty quickly. So just let us know. I'm pretty excited about some of the new merch that's in there. I really like a few of the designs.
I can't wait.
I mean, I like everything, but
right.
I get excited when there's new stuff. Okay, so I have a really terrible story today.
Lovely. Can't wait to hear it.
It's I don't do stories that involve children.
Right.
I cried while researching this.
Right.
Yeah. So just be prepared for that, you guys.
How fun. How fun is that?
Are you ready? Do you have anything before we get started?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Back in the 1950s.
Okay.
Robert Cosgrove Greenlease Sr. Quite a name.
That's a long one.
He was a multimillionaire auto dealer in Kansas City, Missouri.
Oh.
He'd been the one who brought like General Motors to that part of the country. Like he introduced them to the GM vehicles.
Gotcha.
And then he owned dealerships from like Texas to South Dakota.
Oh.
He and his second wife, Virginia, had a son also named Robert Greenlease, who went by Bobby. Bobby wasn't their only child. He had an adopted older brother, too, named Paul Robert Greenlease. There's lots of Roberts.
Oh, wow. All the Roberts. Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay.
So 6-year-old Bobby attended a Catholic preschool there in Kansas City. And on September 28th, 1953, his aunt came to pick him up from school around 11 a.m. She told the nuns, I've been out shopping with his mom, and his mom had a heart attack. And I need to take Bobby to see her.
Oh, gosh.
She's at St. Mary's Hospital. And the woman was like visibly upset, obviously. And she was like apologetic about being all emotional. Because you know how women aren't allowed to be emotional about anything.
Yeah, especially in the 50s.
No, she's probably on her period.
Mm-hmm.
The nun,
the devil.
The nun told Bobby his aunt had come to pick him up, but she didn't tell him about his mom. Because, you know, she didn't want to be the one to break it to him. But she figured his family would do that.
Yeah.
So Bobby comes in and, goes straight over to his aunt. She puts his hand on his shoulder and they leave. They hop into a cab to head to the hospital.
Okay. So she wasn't even driving. She was in a cab.
She took a cab.
Women don't drive.
No, you can't trust a woman.
Oof, my gosh.
Of course, everyone knew the Greenlease family and they were really worried about Bobby's mom. So like 15 to 20 minutes later, one of the nuns called to check on how she's doing. Because when the aunt had came in, all she had said was she had a heart attack. They didn't really know.
Died, not that she's in critical condition. Okay.
They didn't know if it was like something she'd recover from.
Right.
Was she going to have surgery? Yeah. What's the deal? So the nun calls the Greenlease home. And Virginia Greenlease, the mother, answers the phone.
She sure does. What?
And that's when they find out that Virginia Greenlease had not had a heart attack at all. And the woman who had taken Bobby from school was not his aunt.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
What?
Robert Greenlease Sr. and Senior?
Senior.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Robert Greenlease Sr. Immediately called the police, who then called the FBI.
Okay.
So they tracked down the cab driver who had taken them from the preschool pretty quickly. His name was Willard. And he confirmed that he had picked up a woman who matched the description of Bobby's so-called aunt. And she had asked him to take her to the preschool, then wait outside for her. And she returned to the cab about 6 minutes later with a little boy matching Bobby's description, and then asked to be taken to the Katz drugstore at Westport and Main Street in Kansas City.
Oh.
The last time Willard saw the woman and boy, they had stopped behind a blue 1952 or 1953 Ford sedan. Ford.
Florida.
We took last week off. and you could
she
tell.
forgot how to talk during that time frame.
I like how we say that as if I usually never have these issues. No.
Never, ever.
There's always a reason.
Yeah.
So they stopped behind a blue 1952 or 53 Ford sedan with Kansas license plates.
Oh.
The first ransom letter showed up at the Greenlease home by mail that evening. It demanded $600,000 in 10s and 20s.
So wait, by mail, doesn't mail take forever?
I know.
So I guess maybe somebody illegally put it in their mailbox. It wasn't really the postman?
Because it said it was postmarked 6 p.m. and mailed special delivery. So I feel like in the 50s, the mail system must have been...
Anybody goes, whenever.
Apparently much
There's
different.
a special delivery.
Yeah, you got to take it right now.
Tom, I've got you on standby.
So
for after hours.
This $600,000 would be about $6.6 million today.
Wow.
They wanted it to be put in a duffel bag, and they promised that Bobby would be returned without harm in 24 hours as long as there were no tricks in delivering the money.
Okay.
The kidnappers specified that the money had to be collected from all 12 of the Federal Reserve banks.
Why?
I don't know.
Oh.
I feel like maybe something about making it harder to trace, like if they all came from different places, but that doesn't really make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
But I don't know if the kidnappers knew that didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
They wanted 20,000 $20 bills and 20,000 $10 bills. The next day, a second ransom letter arrived. Inside the envelope, his parents found the Jerusalem medal that Bobby had worn. This letter made the same ransom demands as the one before and said that Bobby was okay but homesick.
My gosh.
And when I read about the ransom letters, they were like, he's doing fine, but he's quite a handful, acting like we're really earning this ransom money.
Oh my gosh.
Like, sorry.
We've been doing so good.
You're not nannies.
Yeah. Like keeping him, busy.
You really owe us this money.
He
for
really
putting
likes
up with your child.
hopscotch.
God. So desperate to save his son, Robert Greenlease called several of his closest friends in order to meet the demands of the kidnappers.
Oh.
So the whole thing about like getting the money from the different banks and all that.
Gotcha.
So one of his friends was the head of a local bank, and his name was Arthur Eisenhower.
Related to Dwight?
Absolutely.
Oh,
he was the
really?
brother of Dwight Eisenhower.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Who was president at the time.
Yeah. Wow.
So Arthur made sure to record the serial number of every bill.
Oh my gosh.
And that list was later printed in several newspapers to try to track down the money.
I mean, that's a lot.
I know.
20,000 bills.
40,000 because it was 20,000 20s and 20,000 10s.
My gosh.
While they were pulling the money together, the kidnappers continued to contact the Greenlease family. They repeatedly assured Bobby's mother that Bobby was fine. They just kept talking about, yep, he's fine. He's just a little boy.
He's just wild.
Just rambunctious.
He won't leave us alone about snacks.
At the time that the ransom was paid, it was the largest ransom ever paid in U.S. history.
Oh my gosh.
The final call from the kidnappers came at 1 a.m. on October 5th, confirming they had received the ransom and they would return Bobby alive and well within 24 hours.
Oh. Not immediately?
24 hours came and went, and Bobby wasn't returned.
Oh, no.
What the Greenlease family didn't know, what they couldn't have known, is that at the time the kidnappers were making those promises, 6-year-old Bobby Greenlease was already dead.
Oh, my gosh.
In fact, he had been killed shortly after he was taken, even before the very first ransom letter was sent.
Oh, my gosh.
So the whole time that they're talking
about things that he's doing and stuff.
And talking to his mom on the phone. Oh, he's just a handful. He was dead the entire time.
Trying to give her hope. Oh, my gosh. Ugh.
It's really
disgusting.
It gets worse.
Oh, no. Okay.
A few days go by, and then St. Louis Police Lieutenant Louis Shoulders received a phone call from a guy named Joe Costello.
Oh, that sounds
promising. Very, yeah. Well, they called him a gangster in a few of the articles that I read. He owned a cab company, and one of
course he did.
Right. One of his taxi drivers had an interesting story to tell about a guy who had been using him as his personal driver, handing out money like it grew on trees, telling him to go buy whatever he wanted.
Oh.
This customer had told him he'd gotten all the money by embezzling it.
Of course you did. And she said, huh? She says, huh, too.
And the cab driver knew just where to find this guy because he'd helped him rent a little apartment. So initially, when police showed up to arrest this guy, they thought they were catching an embezzler.
Okay.
They just wanted to talk to him about all the money he was carrying around.
Like, what are you doing?
But once they got him into custody, he broke down and confessed everything.
Oh, my gosh.
His name was Carl Austin Hall, and he had gone to military school with Paul Greenlease. Remember I mentioned Bobby's older adopted brother? So that's how he knew the family and their wealth.
Oh, no.
When Carl got older, he inherited a little bit of money from his father, but he wasted it. He blew it all on failed business ventures. After that, Carl was like, well, now I need money, so I'm going to be a respectable citizen and do what you do when you need money.
Right.
Rob people.
Yeah.
That's what everybody does.
It from
people. Don't get a job.
You don't work hard for it.
No, you definitely need to steal it.
Yes.
So he robbed a few cab drivers, and that landed him in prison.
Oh.
So he spent that time in prison, rehabilitating himself.
Right.
Just
Becoming
meditating,
a better man.
Self-care.
Yeah.
Thinking about all the wrong turns he had made in his life.
Coming up with new business plans.
And how he would fix it. And no, I'm kidding. He spent that time planning the ultimate heist.
Amazing.
He decided that kidnapping was the only crime where you could strike once and retire for life.
Oh, wow.
And he knew just the family.
Of course he did.
The Greenleases.
Of course he did.
When he was released from prison, Carl met Bonnie Emily Hetty, a woman who had a bit of a drinking problem and, from what I can tell, terrible taste in men.
Of course.
Carl told her about his plan to kidnap a Greenlease kid and never work again. And she was like,
how could you do that?
No. She's like, you're the man for me.
Amazing.
What a fairy tale.
What a dream. Dream of a man.
Oh my God, I can't wait to tell my mom about you.
Wow. I'm going to take you home for Christmas.
At first, they'd been planning to kidnap the Greenlease's 11-year-old daughter.
Okay.
But then decided that 6-year-old Bobby would be easier.
Right. Okay.
So it was Bonnie who posed as Bobby's aunt the day he was taken. And by the way, I hate this. Later, when she talks about this whole thing, Bonnie, she talks about how Bobby just walked right up to her and took her hand. And she said, he was so trusting.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, you freaking monster.
I would have slapped her in the face, even if I was doing the interview with her.
It is so sad because you think, and the nuns said, they were like, there was just no sign that he didn't know who she was.
Right.
Because he was just such an obedient kid.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is your aunt. And he just walked right up to her, took her hand and left with her. He didn't act like he didn't know her.
Oh my gosh.
He just trusted the adults.
Oh, that makes me sick. Ew.
So she had taken Bobby to the Cat's drugstore where they met Carl in the parking lot. And they drove across state lines into Kansas. Bonnie got out of the car and walked away while Carl killed Bobby. I'm already about to burst into tears. Listen, I tried like 3 different times to type out how Bobby was killed. And every time I had to stop because I was like picturing it.
No, can't do it.
So it's awful. And I don't need to tell. Like Carl killed Bobby. Okay.
Right. Carl's a horrible human, sweet little Bobby.
It's awful.
Yeah.
So from there, Carl and Bonnie drove back to Bonnie's house where they buried Bobby in a grave that Carl had dug the night before. So like,
for sure premeditated.
They knew they were going to kill him the entire time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And then they planted flowers on top of the grave just to make it look like, so the freshly turned dirt wouldn't be suspicious. So when Bonnie showed up to pick Bobby up from preschool and he put his little hand in hers, she knew that his grave was waiting at her house.
No.
I can't.
No.
I don't even understand.
How?
So she got out of the car and walked away while Carl.
Yeah.
She left him alone. I just can't.
Nope. No.
God. Okay. So, and then they'd made the ransom demands, gotten the ransom.
Called the family, wrote notes. Oh, what?
Apparently the ransom drop had to be made twice because the first time Carl couldn't find it, which, whatever, I mean. But then they finally got it and confirmed with the Greenleases that they'd received it. And then, while Robert and Virginia Greenlease waited on instructions on where to find Bobby, Carl and Bonnie headed to St. Louis. So thanks to Carl's confession, police found Bonnie passed out in an apartment that Carl and Bonnie had rented as soon as they got into St. Louis. And this has all taken place over just like a couple days.
Right.
So when they first got to St. Louis, they rented this little apartment. I mean, Carl basically like abandoned Bonnie there. He got her super drunk. She passed out.
Yeah.
He left a couple $1,000s for her and took off.
Oh my gosh.
He was like, I got all this money for myself.
Yeah.
He was not planning on coming back to her.
Okay.
From there, from the where they found Bonnie, they headed straight to Bonnie's home where they found the new flower bed and dug it up to retrieve Bobby Greenlease's body.
Oh my gosh.
He was recovered around 8:40 a.m. on October 7th, 1953, buried near the porch of Bonnie's home. His body had been wrapped in a plastic bag and lime had been poured over it. The Greenlease family dentist had to identify the body. Carl Hall and Bonnie Hetty pled guilty and were sentenced to death in Missouri's lethal gas chamber.
Oh, my gosh.
The judge at the time said, "I think the verdict fits the evidence. It is the most cold-blooded, brutal murder I have ever tried."
Oh, my gosh.
Neither of them... Neither
did a thing.
Neither of them bothered to appeal the verdict. On December 18th, 1953, they were executed side by side at the Missouri State Penitentiary.
Penitentiary.
It's not that, Kara. Don't you dare mispronounce it. Who would do that? A second chair was installed in the gas chamber so that they could execute the two of them simultaneously.
Oh, my gosh.
Simultaneously.
Wow.
So Carl was pronounced dead at 12:12 a.m. and Bonnie was pronounced dead 20 seconds later.
Wow.
Bonnie Hetty is one of only 4 women to have ever been executed by federal authorities as of 2021.
Oh, my gosh.
And of those, she's the only one to be executed by gas chamber.
Wow.
Yeah. There is still one enduring mystery attached to this case.
Okay.
When Carl and Bonnie picked up the ransom that had been left for them, it was in a duffel bag.
Right.
Carl then went and purchased 2 metal suitcases and transferred the money into those. Those suitcases were in his apartment at the time of his arrest.
Okay.
According to Carl, nearly all of the money should have been there. And I know earlier when I talked about how he was just like throwing money around, it sounded like he'd been on a wild spending spree and was quickly going through the money, but it had only been a couple days, so he couldn't have spent it that much, right?
Right.
The thing is, it appears that a good chunk of the money never made it to the police station.
Oh.
And to this day, only about $288,000 has been recovered. So we're missing a little over half.
Yeah.
I think the estimate is that there should have been something like $550,000.
Right.
Some articles act like the full $600,000 should have been there, but we know that he spent some of it.
And he left some of it with Bonnie.
Right.
And yeah.
So let's just say $550,000. So Joe Costello, the owner of the cab company who called Lieutenant Shoulders, he and Lieutenant Shoulders were apparently friends. Lieutenant Shoulders had once driven a cab too.
Oh, okay.
And apparently the St. Louis police in the 50s was fairly corrupt.
Right. Yeah.
When Lieutenant Shoulders went to arrest Carl Hall, he was driven there by Patrolman Elmer Dolan.
Okay.
According to Shoulders and Dolan, they brought the cases containing all of the money into the station at the same time that they brought Carl in.
Okay.
Later, there was testimony that no one saw them bringing the cases in when they said they did.
Oh.
There was this huge investigation into the missing ransom money. Shoulders and Dolan had just pulled off this huge arrest in this huge case, and they should have been celebrated and promoted and all of that.
Right.
But instead, there was this big cloud of suspicion around them.
Oh.
It seemed like they had brought in some of the money,
but not all.
But not all of it. They both ended up being convicted for perjury in a federal court for supposedly lying about the sequence of events from the time they arrested Carl Hall until the time the money was brought into the police station and counted.
Oh.
So they're saying, you're not telling the truth because all the money's not here.
Right.
So they were convicted of perjury.
Wow.
Several witnesses testified that they had seen Shoulders and Dolan when they came back to the police station with Carl and that they hadn't been carrying anything.
Oh.
Shoulders' response to this was that the cases of money were outside in the car at that point, and they brought Carl in, got him secured, and then went back out to get the money and bring it in.
Okay, that kind of makes sense, though.
It does. But if that had happened, where'd the money go?
Yeah, where was it? Yeah.
So the official theory is this. After Shoulders and Dolan brought Carl in, they both left the station saying they had to run some personal errands.
Oh.
The theory is that this is when they returned to the apartment where they picked up Carl, took half the money, then brought the rest of it to the police station through a back door. For what it's worth, Carl made an official statement before his execution saying that at the time he was arrested, the money had been left behind at the apartment. Like he specifically remembered that they had not brought the suitcases with him. And this directly contradicted the police officer's statement that the money was taken into custody at the time of Carl's arrest.
Ooh.
One thing we do know through the investigation into the missing money is that after picking up the ransom money, but before his arrest, Carl had bought a shovel. When he was asked about this, he said he had intended to bury some of the money, but dropped the idea when he couldn't decide on a suitable place to bury it.
Okay.
But we're saying that we're sure Carl is telling the truth.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we think that about anything.
Right, exactly, because he hasn't at all.
He could have buried some of that money.
Right.
I mean, we don't know.
Right.
Lieutenant Shoulders went to prison for 3 years, and Elmer Dolan went to prison for 2 years.
Okay.
When they were released, they both returned to St. Louis. Shoulders died a few years later in 1962. After Shoulders died, Dolan confessed to the FBI that he had committed perjury because he was more afraid of Shoulders than he was of prison.
What?
So he was willing to lie because he knew that Shoulders and Costello would kill him if he told the truth. He waited until Shoulders and Costello were both dead before he gave this statement. According to Dolan, the night they arrested Carl Hall, Lieutenant Shoulders and Joe Costello decided to keep half the ransom money. So Dolan, Shoulders, and Costello all went to Costello's house the night that Carl was arrested. And in the basement, according to Dolan, there were large amounts of cash stacked in 2 suitcases and on a table. He said Shoulders offered him $50,000, but he turned it down.
Oh my gosh.
It's speculated that most of the missing money was funneled through the mafia.
Oh, fun.
Elmer Dolan received a full pardon from President Johnson on July 21st, 1965.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's it. There's just so many awful parts about this story. Like, there's all of the awfulness, of course, surrounding Bobby. And then the police officers
being so corrupt
took that money.
Yeah.
That was like, this little boy died.
Yeah.
And you
That's
thought
the thing you can think about.
You just couldn't.
I'm going to profit off of this.
Yeah.
Gross.
It's so gross. It's so awful.
Ew.
It's just tragic.
That's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
His poor family just anticipating getting him back within 24 hours of dropping all that money.
The articles were kind of all over the place, but they all were like, it was very shortly after they took him that they killed him. Like, one article was like 30 minutes.
Oh my
later.
God.
So I don't, because the numbers were a little all over the place, I can't say exactly how long, but it was really
that day.
Probably a couple hours at the most.
Oh my gosh.
It was just terrible.
Oh, people are horrible.
And I don't know, I guess it's awful all around, but just something about a woman being involved made it worse to me. Like, I guess there's just no maternal instinct there.
Yeah. Like, how can you have no compassion whatsoever?
Yeah.
Oh.
Want to do some Patreon shout outs?
Yes. Pause for a second, though. I saw a comment on one of our YouTubes that was like, it's emu, not emu.
Emu?
Isn't it? Or it's one, what? Emu or something? Emu.
I thought it was
emu.
I thought it was emu.
They said it was whatever it was. And I'm like, we're from Kentucky. So whatever we said is
no
right, but there is a twang to it.
Well, see, now I got to understand. Emu, not emu.
I don't know.
I can't tell how she's phonetically pronouncing it. I just wanted you guys to know that EMU is pronounced EM-U, not E-MOO.
So it's not emu. It's emu.
Emu. I think she's saying emu.
Emu.
But then I think that's a
emu.
Southern
emu
issues. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm sorry that if we've upset anybody by mispronouncing the word EMU.
Critters. Giant
critters.
Bird critters.
Bird critters.
Marcy with the animal shelter, the one we get the fosters from, she has 2 of them, so we'll just ask her.
Oh, she has 2
emus.
Please don't think that we are making fun of you.
No,
whoever messaged it, we're definitely making fun of ourselves because we truly have no clue how this is pronounced. I will be unsurprised if we are or aren't pronouncing it correct. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Some Patreon shout outs. If you are on the Body of a Goddess or Janet levels of the Patreon, you get a little shout out on the show. Don't forget, if you're in the Patreon, you can join our Discord channel. If you can't find the link, just message us. It's posted there, and it should also be in the little welcome email you get when you subscribe. But you can always message us if you can't find it. And if you're a Janet, send us your Instagram handle so we can add you to our
only friends.
Our only friends circle on Instagram. Okay. You can start.
Oh, thank you so much,
welcome.
Megan. Serenity Lodge.
I think somewhere in that we had to have gotten it.
Yep, I'm sure.
Emma Campbell.
Jen Dunning.
Kristen Roark.
Ariana,
I think.
Okay, Ariana. Roush.
Jess Roach.
Tony Nell.
Sarah Marsh.
Kellen Kendrick.
Victoria Rose.
Perfect.
That's all.
We did so good.
I'm very proud of us.
Words.
Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all for those of you who subscribe to the Patreon. And those of you who don't, like, it's so funny. We'll get messages sometimes from people who are like, I have to unsubscribe because I'm having money issues. And I'm always like, we aren't upset.
Yeah. We love you.
Yeah. Trust me.
No matter what. Yeah.
If anyone in the world right
Numbers
now
are hard.
understands money problems, it's me. So
numbers are hard.
totally understand. Don't ever feel guilty if you have to unsubscribe. We'll always be there when you come back. And, if you can't afford to for any reason, there's so many ways you can help out by just spreading the word about the podcast, leaving a review if you haven't, that kind of thing. So don't ever feel like you need to pay money.
Right.
We love you just for being here ever.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good weekend.
Yep.
We love you
so much.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.